that there are films where I got in and realized that, okay, this is not what I thought it's going to be. That's also happened. Sometimes that's also a good thing, but there have been a few films where that hasn't been a good thing.
The Palestinian conflict and the war in Ukraine and everything basically, but he said when you zoom out, people become numbers. Fahad mentioned once about, watching something and then he's like, dance the character illa. And then that's what I was thinking, like, I'm not a great dancer, but I admire like actors who dance really well. And then this thing that he says, that's his approach, that ellathilum aa character undavam. Odumbozhum dance cheyyumbozhum ellam.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Welcome to Film Compare and South.
Thank you.
So let me start with a confession that I haven't seen the movie. Okay, I've just seen the trailer and I'm just waiting to watch the movie properly without it being any preparation for an interview or anything. Because then the trailer looks kick-ass. But what I want to ask you is, how in that movie both of you are like outsiders, right? You guys are coming from India, going to Sri Lanka with a certain notion about that place, and then you're surprised when all that happens in the movie. Isn't it like that in the case of almost all the movies that you guys do? Aren't you guys outsiders when you listen to the script or the story, and then when you work with a particular issue or work with a particular subject, don't you guys get out of it almost like you finished a crash course in that particular problem?
Yeah.
How is that phase like?
It's very interesting, this whole idea of this cliched line of living many lives, I think it's one of the most exciting things about being an actor, the kind of things that you get to learn. It's all very random. And I really enjoy that process, it's like, okay, so there's something in the subject of a film that demands some amount of research work to be done. So what are the things that you can read, what are the things that you can watch, especially when there's like a watch list or a reading list and all, I love it. And then by the end of that film, like you very rightly pointed out, you come out feeling a little better informed, and there's also this feeling that if it weren't for this film, I would always be the uninitiated, as far as this particular thing is concerned. And same goes with, like, I learned sign language when I was doing Muthon, and it was such an empowering feeling. So sometimes it's also a skill that you pick up. Sometimes it's just knowledge and contextual knowledge about something. Yeah, that's actually like one of the most exciting things about.
No, but when does this process start? You mentioned like going into that research work and that that point where you're looking up a lot of books and movies and all that related to a particular subject. At what stage is that? Do you do that before you say yes to that particular film, or it's after you say yes and then as a part of preparation for the role?
Yeah, it's after I say yes, mostly. I think it's like you might already have an idea. Like, say, for instance, I have to play a doctor in the next film. I've never played a doctor, but I can already think of like 2-3 of my close friends who work in different branches, surgeons, general practitioners. So I would have this plan in mind that I'm going to go shadow this person, or I'm going to spend a lot of time with this person and pick up whatever I can. Maybe before I say yes, but the work only begins after committing to a project.
What about you?
Yeah, no, for me also it's like if it's a skill or something like a language. If you're working in a language, I try and start the minute I hear. Sign. Whether it was the Telugu film or whether it's Taekwondo. I think it's like a real fear that sets in where you're just like, you don't know anything about this, and you'll have to look like you do in a month, in 2 months. So it drives me like anything. Like I literally make those calls the minute I find out. I'm like, okay, where's my teacher? So yeah, sometimes it's also like you get into that world and then know more about it, which happened with this, which happened with, say, something like Nipah and Virus. Those are films where we know what's going on, we've heard about these things, but the minute you're playing someone who got Nipah, it's suddenly a whole new thing. Like I remember when I was on that, we shot in that place where what do you call this?
Containment zone.
Yeah, wherever inside the hospital, the ward where Nipah patients were sort of kept aside, and so that's where we shot. That was shut and kept, and then they opened it during this. So it was very eerie to be walking on that, knowing that these are people who've gone through this, that this character is going to be going through this in some time, and that I'm playing that. So there's one place where, there were doctors who were, sort of telling me what happened or what could be going through. They also are. These are the possibilities, right? They don't know this is exactly what's going on, but these are the possibilities based on what happened. So one point I remember one doctor telling me that when I'm lying in bed and I'm fully, got that mask and this Vishnu, my husband, is coming and sitting next to me, and he tells me, so I was responding to it, and then he just added and told me, sometimes you don't need to use it. Sometimes they're almost delusional, like you don't have connections, you lose parts of your reality and you don't remember. So there are people who've looked at their family and not recognized them. And like I remember thinking, that's just so and it was immediate. I mean, not that I used it very specifically, but these are things that immediately inform or give you that possibility when you're going to start playing it. I know that there was a moment there where I looked at him and thought about, oh, who is this? Or, like I've played those things. And then when you come out, you know so much, like you come out feeling like you've gone, like it was not that you've gone through what you've gone through, but like you feel a little closer to it than you were before. So that does happen, and that's happened with every film that we play, that we get to be part of.
And it's not something you can switch off from, no? Because let's say you've done Virus or you've done See You Soon and all that. So whenever you watch something on TV or read something on the paper that's some way connected to those issues, you're immediately going back to that.
And that happens with See You Soon. Every time I've seen that, and there are many of these cases, right? Like you keep reading about it, and every time I've read it, I've sent him an article or sent Mahesh an article and say, oh yeah, like look at this, and it's so real. Like it's a lot more real to you suddenly because you've gone through the emotions, or you try to recreate those emotions, right?
And then it just continues for like always. You're always that thread is always there.
It's like you know about a subject more than what most people around you might know about, because you've dealt. But does this make it? Does this make a particular film or a script more interesting because it's something that you really want to go into?
If it's a topic that you're genuinely drawn towards, then but that's mostly not the reason why you say yes.
Story and character.
It's like an added advantage that comes with it, something that I truly enjoy. But that's usually not the reason. Like I want to talk about this topic is hardly a reason, I guess, for an actor to say yes.
The writer maybe.
For the writer and director mostly, that should, I guess, be,
But
something.
I mean, I think overall there are stories we'd like to tell. I mean, like there are things that are, as individuals, there are things that are concerning us, and we'd like to be, I mean, at the end of the day, we are documenting things as life is moving on or as the world passes by. So I feel like there are stories and there are things that I am drawn towards, and when I hear that in a story, and if it's I think for me it's a very emotionally am I connected to it, and I mean it's not like I'm following a cause and I want to talk about it, so let's find a film that works. But if there is that, I'm drawn to it, and if the emotions and like I'm feeling hooked to that, then it is a sort of it adds.
It's like you're manifesting it or something.
Somewhere it's happening.
I'm actually more clear about what are the things that I don't want to talk about. This I definitely don't want to align with, and sometimes a no also comes, I guess, from this is a cause I fully align with, but I'm not the right person to play this character for whatever reason. And that's definitely a confusing territory also. But I'm more clear about the no area of it rather than what I want to.
But let me ask you the flip side, okay? Because even if you guys have no plans of writing or directing or something, can you ever switch off that part of you that's always thinking about stories? Because of course 50% of your job is deciding the story is worth it or not, right? So even if you're watching a documentary or reading a newspaper article about like something absurd, aren't you always thinking, oh, this cinema is that part always active?
I guess this cinema when we read a book and all, I have that feeling, and then I immediately cut it saying no, let's just remain a book, But I realized that I do think about it this way because I realize that every time I watch a film that's say completely original, and you know some of those films that you watch and you're like, where the hell did the story come from? Who came up with this idea? That thought begins somewhere here. No? This whole idea of who came up with this basically means you're thinking, why didn't I come up with this? It's not part of my job really to come up with stories, but also as people who we really like, both of us really like doing theatre, and when we do it, we also we are more excited if it's something original. So we are constantly ideating in that regard, not to make a film out of it, but just it'd be so cool if we had that one, we keep saying it'd be so cool if we suddenly stumbled upon that one idea.
One story we really want to tell. And we would, I think that happened once for us, and with the play, that it was a bunch of people who really wanted to say that story, and we came together to make that happen. So we keep looking for threads for sure.
And it's really interesting how, because with theatre, when you decide to go out and make a play, there's so much of searching in the dark and so much of trial and error involved that unless that first core idea truly excites you and drives you, you will not see it till the end of the process. You will give up halfway. So you really need to be convinced, and everyone in the team needs to be convinced about that one idea. So that search is always happening. Whenever there's a strange incident in life, is there a possibility?
For me, I think I'm still consuming films, and I mean, I'm not very knowledgeable when it comes to films, and I've not watched a lot. I mean, it's now after I started doing films that I started watching more films, and so I feel like it's a little bit more I'm still not thinking too much about making, and so I'm very even with watching, I feel like it's very emotion driven, and so I don't think I watch things or look at things and think of a film or what happens if that's a story, but I know that these sort of emotions, and I'm absorbing that a lot in everything that's happening around. Sort of like adding it to your vocabulary of sorts, or that's happening for sure.
No, but that like you described it, there's probably one really strong reason that gets you to say yes to a particular film. But because filmmaking is a 1-year process, you say yes, and then you start reading the script again, and then you start shooting, and it's painful and stressful and frustrating and all that. Through that entire 1-year process, can you bank on yourself to just trust your love for that idea throughout that whole year, or do you have to just, okay, I've said yes, now I have to be committed, I have to just be professional, or is it a mix of both?
I don't think ideally, the
idea should power you through, right?
Yes, but it's also not fully on that idea alone. No? There are so many elements that get added to it. So initially you start working on it alone, then the director is always there, then the crew comes in, other co-actors come in. So there's a possibility with each added layer that there will be some amount of excitement that comes. For me, it's not always the script or the idea itself that makes me say yes to a project. Sometimes it's purely just the people. And as long as that doesn't disappoint, I'm okay. I'm very happy to see it through, because these people are on this journey with me. So every phase, I think, comes with some excitement, ideally. But yeah, there are times when it all runs out, and then you just have to get out of the car and push it uphill. And
somehow, 95, bang it by
okay, maybe the next one will mean so much more to you because you've
committed to this. Is that the same?
I think most often I've been in places where I've been excited, and the excitement has only increased.
Wow.
I'm very,
She's
very
a lucky one.
I'm very lucky that way. But of course, there are cases where that hasn't been the case. That there are films where I got in and realized that it's okay, this is not what I thought it's going to be. That's also happened. Sometimes that's also a good thing, but there have been a few films where that hasn't been a good thing. And I mean, I think, but I'm, I am, how do I say, committed to, I don't think I give myself the option to not like it, or I am going to find my way around this. That's sort of how I mean, you don't have an option really, but I think my mindset towards, even when I didn't like what I got, the 3 days into a film,
Correct,
where it's how you are, what you're feeling towards it. When it hasn't been good also, it's just okay, this is not ideal setting, how to make the best of this. That's sort of, but most often with projects, I think any possibility of me being a little unhappy or like uncomfortable, not uncomfortable in I mean like just unsafe, uncomfortable, anything that's going to like, or an idea that's not that exciting are things I do filter out in a way, very sort of selfishly so, like I do that with you know, a little ruthlessly for myself, like, you know, even though there are expectations that I should be doing that film because so and so and so, and I mean, I'm okay with like, okay, it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for me. So that's probably also why the process for me has always been, mostly been great, and it just builds and it gets better, it gets better.
No, speaking specifically about Paradise, no, because eventually, like we've all lived in Chennai at some point in our life, right? So the way we probably, and at that time, 2009, 2010, so that period where we were exposed to that civil war and the kind of the way people were reacting to that is very different there compared to people who've just been in Kerala, right? So of course that's probably one of the reasons why you understand that like, a film like this should be made in Malayalam or, you know, a mix of two languages. But eventually when you go to a place like that and you work in a movie and then when you come back, does your understanding of that entire situation just totally flip, or is it just more in depth?
It becomes a lot more real, I think. Yeah. I mean, like, there's only so much you can gain from reading and watching stuff. And I'm not saying those things, what you read and what you watch, aren't informative enough.
Correct. There's always a distance, right?
Yeah. There's a certain way it affects you when, like, when you're bang in front of it or in the middle of it, and it, you know, you can, you smell it and touch it and all. So I keep going back to, especially in the context of Paradise, I keep going back to this little thing that a writer called John Fosse wrote. He was speaking about the Palestinian conflict and the war in Ukraine and everything basically, but he said when you zoom out, people become numbers, you know, and everything that's, you only see what's known to you and what's similar to you, and then if you continue to do that for a really long time, what is different will frighten you and you will try to destroy what's different. So that's why he is basically bringing it all to the point that that's why art is important, and that's why it's important that we read translated books and watch world cinema and all that, so you get to, so there is similarly, like, more than I guess reading and watching, there is a lot of power in when you go there physically and you experience it and you interact with the people and get to know the person behind the name or the culture or the identity of a state. You know?
But I mean, I've just seen the trailer, and from the looks of it, it's like pretty much like a proper multilingual film. You can't even call it a bilingual, right? Everybody's speaking in the language that they're supposed to speak in at that time. There's no compromise. There are not 50 Malayali characters in Colombo because the film has to And I was talking to Nimisha during Pocha, and she told me this very interesting thing about how you have a way of making every dialogue into yours. So what's written on the script is something, but then there is a way that you kind of convert it and make it very like how you would say it. But when a movie is multilingual in this sense, where it's a lot like us, no? We're not people who are just talking in Malayalam, we speak like 2 or 3 languages. Does that process of converting a dialogue into that language, no? Like whatever language the film requires, more liberating, or is it more complicated because it involves so many different languages?
So for me, the thing is, like you said, you know, we are people who switch between languages almost every now and then, right? Like we speak, I mean, even if you're in Chennai, you're speaking Tamil, and or Delhi, we speak Hindi. So I mean,
the English we speak in Chennai is
different from the English we speak here. And you know, when you're living in Kerala for some time and you go to Delhi and speak to them in English, they're like, you're sounding different. You know, like that happens a lot. And so for me, I've actually felt like in the film I'm speaking in English, in Malayalam, in Tamil. And there is also Hindi, there is Sinhala, there's so there's a bunch of these languages, and for me I felt like it was very liberating, like that you're not restricted, like we've always done a Malayalam film or a Tamil film and you're speaking in that language. Here there was that boundary was very, you could keep, you know, you could flow with it, and like it felt like how I treat language, so it felt very at home. So even with him, I could at any point, and Prasna sir had given us the freedom amongst us to sort of sway between these languages, and like based on the scene, based on what was going on, we both also figured out a little bit, and we were able to play with language that way. So yeah,
the same line you'll probably try it in 2 or 3 languages.
Yeah,
and
so
then
it was written in English.
Yeah.
The script was in English.
Yeah.
And at multiple points we'd be like, okay, maybe this is something we can take in Malayalam, or like, shouldn't this be in English itself, because there's, like we'd take those calls amongst, include sir, and like sir mostly told us to, you can go figure it out. But yeah, that was a very interesting process. And even when you watch the film, I love how seamlessly language is shifting and moving, and I thought that was one of the best parts of this film.
Yeah. So you guys are just, because I'm expecting sir might not know Malayalam, right?
Yeah.
So you guys are just checking with each other?
Yeah, we're checking with each other, and then Rajiv sir, in case we are confused. But yeah, it's like, see, liberating for sure. What she said is spot on. I felt that too. To have the freedom to, pick the language, and also because these are familiar settings that these characters come from. Keshav's a Malayali who lives in Bombay. I have been a Malayali who lives in Bombay, and I've spoken to Malayalis who are from there. And with this one, I think there was the added excitement of there is politics in the use of language also. When do you decide to switch to a language that a third person in the room does not understand? Like, what do you keep private, and for what reason do you keep something private? Or when do you use language to intimidate or to assert superiority? All of those questions suddenly came up when I was doing Paradise, which hadn't happened in multilingual projects before or bilingual projects before. And I have a history with this, which is that when we used to do plays in Chennai, so much English theatre happens in Chennai, right? And I've always felt, especially when we performed the play, we're like having such a ball with it. And then I remember the first play I did in Museum Theatre, there was a review that came out that sort of like praised me and a few other actors a little bit. I was so over the moon about it. I took a color Xerox of it and laminated it and put it in my room. And then a few of my seniors would watch the play, sort of very casually mentioned, oh yeah, like that the play where everybody was American but spoke with a Malu accent, right? And then I realized, oh shit, and I felt really bad, and I took my laminated Xerox down. And then I noticed this maybe because it left a scar, I noticed every time I saw like small little clips of, theatre performances where we were taking English lines, and the English always sounded so bad and so awkward. And it's not just about the accent. It just sounded awkward. It didn't belong. And I had a huge issue with that. And I was like, but why is that happening? Because we speak in English often enough in life. We express ourselves in English often enough in life. Why does that happen on screen? And when this whole politics angle came in, I feel like I got, most importantly for me, I got something which is complicated enough to focus on, so I didn't have to worry about, the awkwardness of using a particular language. And this is also such an interesting added layer that it would almost happen subconsciously, and then you would realize, oh, this is probably why. And then you start seeing it in life also. When somebody gets into a cab and, speaks to the driver in Hindi, and switch back to English or whatever, it's there everywhere to be seen. And I feel like that's such an exciting territory. Even with Poacher, I had such a ball. And there's always, there is an added risk always of, there are so many reasons for you to get swayed that, you as a person are more comfortable saying or expressing this particular thought in this language. Njan ninne premikkunnu sounds a little, I love you is chill, right?
നമുക്കൊരു ഡേറ്റിന് പോയാലോ
so അതെന്റെ തന്നെ ബാഗേജ് ആണോ? So all of those things you get to think about, and there's so much to think about there. Those are connected thoughts that I wanted to get to, but I've lost it because this is funny. But anyway,
No, but I find that it's reducing compared to, let's say, 10 or 15 years earlier when actors naturally switch to English. You used to find it like, okay, that particular line felt very jarring. But then when you see the trailer of Paradise or anything of that sort, you're not really going too much into that. Maybe I think overall, because maybe we were watching Malayalam movies, and then Malayalam movies are purely Malayalam, no? From first light to last album. But now I don't think that's an issue. I think as a whole, the audience, they don't care. It just has to be natural.
Yeah.
So
and I think almost everyone, especially someone who lives in a city, is slowly getting used to it being a community of multiple languages.
Yeah.
Everyone, nobody has the luxury really to only like listen and communicate in one language. Even my parents who live in Changnashiri, they have to use Hindi, you know, every
100%,
every once in a while, and that's beautiful actually, especially in a country like India. Think about the opportunities that it opens up, you know, when we don't have to restrict ourselves with language.
Correct. Another thing I can only ask, like guys like you, you guys see each other outside of movies, right? Outside of movies and outside of any professional setting. And there are probably like expressions and the way you guys behave and act in truly life-related events.
Yeah.
When you see those things and when you notice a particular expression, do you at least tell each other or tell yourself that, okay, this is, I mean, you can't tell yourself because you're not seeing yourself.
Yeah.
Is there a way to kind of, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
We tell each other.
Yeah.
Oh, can you give an example of how that is?
Oh, that's tricky because then we would reveal to the audience.
Yeah, no, I
can't ask this question to anybody else.
He's pointed this multiple, no, I can't tell you what, because then you're going to see all those old films and things that you thought were good and you're like, oh, like...
No, like he's saying don't do something or do something.
So there are things that I do in life as me that, you know, maybe it's I mean, just an example that, you know, like when you're like stressed or there are some responses or like things that you do in your body and you're recreating these emotions, and sometimes you go back to those same mannerisms or some coping mechanisms that you use in your body, and you see that a lot, and then at one point, like, he pointed out a couple of those to me and said, yeah, I mean, if you're aware that you're doing this for the character, that's fine, but maybe you should look at it. And like, for me, it suddenly was just like, and then everything I saw was just like, I'm doing that again, oh my god, I'm doing that again.
He was right.
I was so upset that he was right, because I was just like, shit, I thought I was doing this fine, but then I started being very aware of it, and it really helped me for like things that now when, you know, whatever, like if there's a hand that you normally fall back at, you think if that makes sense, or if it's something you just fall back to because that's the comfort of your own body, and that is so he's pointed out a bunch of things like that to me, which I cannot tell you what. But
yeah, and I guess it's just about, like, you also have to be objective to see if does it still communicate the same thing on screen. If it does, it's completely fine, unless the actor goes and does it for every single character that they're playing. Then it becomes more of a, oh, if this person's angry or this person's stressed, this is how they show it, no matter what character they play. But the ones that need to be pointed out, I guess, are almost like, so if you're somebody who wears an engagement ring in life and you have, you know, playing with the ring happening, and then you take it off for the character, but you're still, you know, your hands are involuntarily going there. That, I guess, doesn't mean anything, you know. And especially in a film like Paradise, like when you watch it, you will also hopefully see that it's the most like simplistic, most crystallized version of, I guess, Prasanna's art that's come. It's like everything's minimal, only what's absolutely essential is in the film. And sometimes, like, we talk about, you know, different meters of performance and all of that. When that is the film, we also have to have some sort of that restraint in what we do, or like emulate that sort of minimalism. So what is unnecessary or what is just clutter or what is not entirely that character might end up confusing someone. So if you can point it out and can remove it, but by the time I do this whole screening, that shot is done. Moved on. You know, then
sometimes
it's
I can
too late.
tell that there's something wrong, but he won't point it out. Like I'll know there's something wrong, but then he'll want me to find it on my own, or like, you know, like go through, maybe like he's doing the right thing, but I'm just like, just tell me, like, you know, just...
No, it's horrible when actors direct each other.
I agree, I completely agree.
It should not happen, and I hate it when someone does that to me. I'm like, you please go through my director.
No, but see, it's also beautiful, right? You have absolute trust when it comes to the most professional thing, which you don't have, if you are working in any other company or any other field, you can't really trust your life with somebody. So isn't that
but I also have the added baggage that I'm also an actor, and I will naturally, when I watch her, especially if it's a shot that I'm not in, some part of my brain is also imagining, oh, how would I play that, you know? And then there are possibilities that open up which may not necessarily be the decision that she's taking. I shouldn't impose my ideas on her. And there's a director out there who is good at what he does, you know, and so there are multiple levels of screening that will have to happen, and that's also out of concern and out of respect for your co-artist. You can't just go around, you know, playing like some senior actors unfortunately do that. Like, I've done this for so many years, so
do it this way.
I'll tell you how to do this.
This is the only way.
Every year we have like amateurs, absolute newcomers coming in and showing us how it's done, you know, constantly. So it comes with a lot of baggage.
I think it's also for him, I think, as because he's directed us, and you know, like we've all done the play together, and when he was directing also, he'd always give us the time to figure it out. He'd never let another actor come and tell, so anything, you can tell anything you want, but come through the director. And that's something he's done very strictly, and it's great. Like, it's very difficult because when you see something, you feel like, oh, this clearly, I know the solution to this problem. So maybe if I suggest it, you're not even telling it out of bad intention. You feel like, oh, this stuck. If I tell them this, it'll help them. But maybe you're creating more trouble. Maybe your help is not required there, and that's something he's, again, like, I've seen him do, and I've learned.
I've learned it from, like, the good directors I've worked with have all been extremely protective of their actors. Like, Geetu will punch an actor if they direct another actor. She will get into a fight. So,
but does it ever, like, when you're watching each other perform, can you ever watch it just as a movie, or are you constantly like watching what they've done in that particular scene? Are you watching like a coach almost, or can you just sit back and just watch it as a movie?
I've been at multiple points that I've watched him. I've forgotten that it's him, and that's such a nice feeling. I get really excited by, like, just being. I think I had that with Muton. I know that I saw Tekkan Telugu and like didn't see him, or like I wasn't scrutinizing to give him points of this work.
You do that also, but.
Sometimes I do that also. Sometimes I'm making notes to like tell him. I mean, like, I feel like some things I know that is going to be useful if it's being said, and I do that with him and with a bunch of actor friends. But yeah, there are times when I'm fully taken with that and I'm traveling, and with Muton I was just shocked. I was just like, that's just beautiful. Yeah, that was so. I was very, very happy to watch it, and like I didn't have anything else to say than that I loved it. Like that's also a problem, because then he'll be like, "Oh, are you sure you really liked it? Because you're not saying anything more." So I'm like, "Yeah, because I didn't have, you know." So he'll pick on like I have to prove that I really liked it. Because
in that scene, I didn't like your shirt. Get off my back.
I think when I watch her in the really good ones, what happens in the process inside me is I'm tracking every like minute change, every little thing that she's building up, and then when it gets really good, I lose track. Like, I don't know what territory she's going to. Then I'm forced to sit back. There's literally like a move back, and I'm
forgotten.
Yeah, and I'm just watching the show, and I'm like, whoa. And when that happens often enough, or even when you start watching a film and it happens like 2 or 3 times, from then on you're constantly in that sitting back position. And I love it when that happens with friends. And we're, you know, having been here for like 9-10 years, we were discussing this a couple of days ago. We're at a point where every month there's a Friends film releasing. Today there's Shruti's film releasing. This month is filled with like Parvati's film, Anarkali's film. So we constantly have opportunities just like watch our friends, and when this happens, when this sitting back happens and you don't see the process, don't see your friend, it's so magical.
For me, I think, sorry, I'm sorry, it's like when you, in the films that I've done with him, it's like I go through this battle of some scene I'm doing, and you know, when you're doing a scene, you're sometimes struck and you're like, oh, that was really good, like that, or like the scene finishes and you're like, oh shit, that was really nice. But then he is someone who is very like strict with himself. Like, he's very hard on himself in terms of for him to agree that something is good, it takes a lot. So I'm like, oh wow, that was so cool, I'm like really excited, and he'll be like, shit, I should have done this, I should have done that, I missed this, I missed that. So I'm permanently like, as a friend, I want to listen to this and like go into this, but also as a co-actor, I'm just like, oh fuck, that was really good, you know, like, so I'm in that, oh sorry.
You can, no problem.
Okay, don't scare me. Suddenly I was like,
every time you start talking about this, you get so like worked up and agitated.
No, it's okay. We'll leave it in, okay, no problem.
But yeah, so I think that's happened with every time I've worked with him, whether it's See You Soon, with Paradise, and I'm always like, it's something is happening here and there's something else happening like in this internal thing with him. So I'm in between both of this, and like each time with all of these films, when I've watched it, I've just been like, how do I tell you how much I liked it? Because you're not going to believe it, because he's still got like a list of, oh, that, this, that. But,
I live in this like state of conundrum where I definitely have much higher expectations, and I know that it's possible.
Yeah, I remember telling me last time.
Yeah, and
very hard on yourself.
Yeah, and I'm basically impatient. I'm like, if you can visualize it, why can't you do it? But it's illogical, right? To think that
doesn't happen in any.
We're not machines. Like we're not like we can't do one.
And
you know, like just go with it. Like
there's also this thing that when it's fully different, and that's usually a good thing as far as like actors are concerned. Unless, you know, only in rare scenarios is it bad. But when it's fully different, even that scares me. I'm like, oh my god, this is all feeling different. Is it all like just going wrong?
It's all wrong.
You know, so it takes a lot to, and I've been teaching myself actually to, you know, not be so hard on myself, and just like keep pushing that you will get there eventually, not be so impatient and not be scared when it's different. Obviously, like her constantly yelling at me, I guess helps, but you should just try the power of like positive affirmation.
it's just so stupid.
But yeah, like even in, you know, in to bring it all back to like a happy note, in Paradise there's a moment you'll see it's also this like a small clip of it in the trailer. This is one scream of Amrita's which happens behind my back, you know, in the scene, and I remember hearing that. I didn't even see it, and I remember hearing that, and I was like, oh my god, that sounds different. I've heard her scream multiple times. That sounds different. That is not a person that I know. And this is also at a moment where Amrita does something that Keshav can't imagine, or even she can't imagine. You know, so like, yeah, I've been using all of these examples and telling myself and teaching myself how to get better at this thing. So calm down, both of you. I'll get there. You know.
I love what you just said, and my next question is related to that, because you guys have seen each other's work through these 10 years, right? You guys have seen each other in pretty much all the dramatic or emotional sequences that you can see each other in movies.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's pretty much the same in real life as well. You guys would have seen each other through a really emotional heartbreak or something really funny, or you know, like when he's like, for instance, lying to somebody, or when you are like acting a certain way when guests come. All those situations you guys would have seen each other in.
Yeah.
When after that, when you've seen each other do a certain thing in real life, and that's like organic to that moment, and when you see a similar thing eclipse in a movie, is it the same or is it very different?
No, it's slightly different.
It's different.
There is acting, like there's a little bit of craft.
I would say there's a little bit of, hopefully, there's a little bit of character in, you know,
the character.
So like, I wouldn't, you know, like talk to a guest the way Keshav does, or I wouldn't talk to somebody who's serving us our meals in a house that we've like booked our stay at the way Keshav does. So when it's exactly the same, that probably means you're not really doing anything. You know, you're doing some part of your some part of your job you're doing. It's like convincing and all to an outsider. But there's an interesting thing that like I think Fahad mentioned once about, you know, watching something and then he's like, dance the character illa. And then that's what I was thinking, like so many actors we think of as, you know, I'm not a great dancer, but I admire like actors who dance really well. And then this thing that he says, that's his approach, that ellathilum a character undavanam, you know, odumbozhum dance cheyyumbozhum ellam. So adu vena, I think some like layer of if nothing else, at least like what happened just before that scene should maybe like leave a trace.
And I guess if that didn't happen, it wouldn't still always be exciting. Like you know, like whether who I saw in as him as a Charkan in Anupam and
the same guy on Lazy Sunday Morning.
Yeah, it was the same. And like just you know, like with Keshav, like we're both. I mean, like someone was just pointing out that you know these are both films where these two characters are on a travel, on a journey, and but like I feel like it didn't require much to see him differently because he was giving me a different something.
Yeah, and it's very important for, especially for people like us, to work on that, because we're not, you know, making huge bodily transformations or anything. Whatever is changing has to be on the inside first. Obviously, when you have like an appearance change, like I did in Anupam or Tekkandalligas, you know, it really helps. When you look at the mirror, it really helps you, right, before you step out to shoot. When you don't have that to fall back on, it's very essential that, I mean, either ways it's essential that things happen inside.
So like how you describe, so when you see Darshana, you know, emote to a particular situation in a way that you haven't seen before, and it doesn't have to be in just movies, it could be outside also, in a new situation that you're going to see her. Is that very exciting? Because not just as a like friend or somebody who's already seen her, but also as this person, like a well-wisher, like acting coach, that category.
Very exciting when something's unrecognizable, you know, or like for me, like I said earlier, something that I can't track, like when I can't see when I can't see the workings of the machine and I'm just seeing the work of the machine, it's very exciting for me. And I've also had the good fortune of, you know, because we've not like fought with each other and gone our separate ways and decided never to see or talk to each other. And it's been like a long time. So we've also grown up. So I've seen her react differently to similar situations, but there is like a different kind of response that's being, you know, elicited now by this particular thing. So I have the satisfaction of both. And
it's also very ironical because when you're seeing her do that, it's not like you can explain to her what she did also.
You can't.
It's not like because the moment is already gone. You can't take a photo of
you can't.
If it is a face you made, you can use it for that character.
See, if she was whistling a tune, you can remember the tune and whistle it back to her.
I probably won't be able to do even that. It's just gone. So it's only there for like that one moment. It's like theatre. You watch it and you enjoy it and it's done.
And the reverse
same. Nothing more to add to that.
It's quite cool actually when you think about it.
So thanks guys, I think that's my time. I'm looking forward to watching this movie and then maybe we'll chat after that.
I'd love to. I really hope you enjoy the film. I'm very excited about you watching it. Looking forward to you watching it.
Thanks
and
guys.
Everyone else, please watch it.
Not just Vishal.
Not just Vishal, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.